Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, Nigeria, African Union react as fighting between Palestinian and Israeli forces continues. Adamawa farmers cry out as floods destroy crops. Military personnel reportedly shot driver to death in Jalingo. And on the foreign scene, powerful earthquakes kill over 2,000 people in Afghanistan. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Hour. I'm Aisha Salihu. At least 600 Israelis and 370 Palestinians dead and thousands more wounded as fighting rages. Israel has declared a state of war as its army continues to face off against Palestinian fighters in several areas across southern Israel. This comes a day after a surprise attack by Hamas, the Palestinian group that governs the Gaza Strip. Earlier, I spoke to the Palestinian ambassador in Nigeria, His Excellency Abdullah Abu Shawesh, to get his reaction on the recent escalation of violence in the region. I understand you said earlier to address this, we have to first of all talk about the root causes. But I'd like to know, how did we get here? What was the condition of Palestinians under the occupation before the attack by Hamas?
I'm gonna tell you, we are suffering in every day since just the beginning of this year. More than 250 Palestinians was killed. This is not a militant Palestinian, pure civilian Palestinian was killed. More than 50 of them is only child Palestinian, and I'm not pretty sure whether you are following this issue and what is happening in the social media, and there's tens of thousands of videos that we can share it with you as a Nigerian media to show you what is happening on the ground. This is the point. I mean, what is happening, just not only what happened yesterday is not the starting point. There's a brutal occupation that we are live under it since more than 53 years ago, and I personally was born in a refugee camp. But you should know, I trust that you know what's the meaning of a refugee camp under the Israeli military occupation. This is our life as a Palestinian, so that there is something, and there is this issue will continue, of course.
I understand there has been a number of casualties. Could you place a figure on the casualties that there has been, and also what is the humanitarian conditions in Gaza and West Bank at the moment? Again, the humanitarian condition in Gaza, in particular, Gaza under the Israeli siege since 17 years ago, so that there is a new generation was born in Gaza, know nothing about the international, anything about outside Gaza, so that this is the humanitarian condition. 70% is unemployment, approximately also 80% of the people under the poverty line, and more of these unfair and unhuman condition that the Palestinian people in Gaza is living and is suffering. So that there is many things to talk about when it came to the humanitarian situation, whether it is in Gaza or in West Bank or in East Jerusalem, even for the Palestinian all around the world, in the refugee camp in Lebanon, Jordan, and other places. We, the Palestinians, suffering for a long time. Okay, so just before we let you go, I'd like to know, on a final note, how far do you think this correct escalation of violence, and what is the role of international community?
How far it is already existing since 75 years ago, but how far it depends to the international community, whether they will be serious in implementing all of the resolution that they are already adopted in the United Nations. 100 of resolution was already adopted there in the Security Council and other places. This will end if the international community will be serious to put an end to the Israeli occupation. If the international community, on top of that, of course, on top of them, of course, is the United States of America and the European countries, is serious to put an end to this brutality. They want and they should start treating Israel and enforcing Israel to be part of this international community, to be abide by the international law. This is the major point. When Israel is, when the international law will become applicable for the state of Israel, at this time, at that moment, exactly, we will put an end to this escalation.
Okay, thank you so much. We had His Excellency Abdullahi Abu Shawesh, who is the ambassador and plenipotentiary state of Palestine to Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the federal government of Nigeria has expressed deep concern about the outbreak of hostilities between Israel and Hamas in the early hours of Saturday and called for de-escalation and ceasefire. Minister of Foreign Affairs Ambassador Yusuf Tugar made the call in a statement signed and made available to Daily Trust. Meanwhile, the head of the African Union Commission has appealed for an end to the conflict between Israeli forces and the Palestinian group Hamas, which has killed hundreds on both sides. Moussa Faki Mahamat called on both parties to return without preconditions to the negotiating table to implement the principle of two states living side by side. The chairperson further calls on the international community and the major world powers in particular to assume their responsibilities to impose peace and guarantee the rights of the two peoples. Faki said in a statement posted late Saturday by the 55-member AU bloc on X, formerly known as Twitter. He says that denial of the fundamental rights of the Palestinian people, particularly that of an independent and sovereign state, is the main cause of the permanent Israeli-Palestinian tension. Hamas launched a massive offensive early Saturday against Israel, firing thousands of rockets aimed at as far as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem as its fighters breached Gaza's security barrier. Israel's army said the land, sea and air attack, which saw Hamas fighters shooting residents in Israeli towns and settlements, had killed more than 200 Israelis and wounded 1,000. Gun battles raged into Sunday morning between Israeli forces and hundreds of Hamas fighters in multiple Israel locations, while soldiers and civilians were taken hostage. Gaza officials said intense Israeli air airstrikes on the coastal enclave had brought the Palestinian death toll to at least 256, with nearly 1,800 wounded. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday warned Israel was embarking on a long and difficult war and vowed its response against Hamas would continue with neither limitations nor respite until the objectives are reached. And away from that, the National Emergency Management Agency has alerted Nigerians to expect floods as Lagdo Dam in Cameroon releases water from its dam. The agency noted that 9 states may be affected by the recent release of water from the dam, which is expected to last till the end of this month. This was disclosed by the Director General of NEMA, Mustafa Ahmed, while giving an update on the release of water from Lagdo Dam and consequential flooding of communities along the banks of River Benue. The states to be affected are Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, Anambra, Edo, Delta, and Bayelsa states. Ahmed said the recent release has led to the displacement of communities and could lead to the destruction of crops and other infrastructure. The agency cautioned authorities of state and local governments along rivers, Niger and Benue Basin areas to immediately activate their emergency response plans to avert potential damage and losses that will arise due to the flooding of communities. NEMA promised to give further updates as it expects to receive updates from the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NIMET, NEMA Operations Office in Yola, Adamawa State, and from state emergency agencies of the frontline states. Still in line with the devastating effects of the flood, local farmers farming along River Benue banks in Adamawa are lamenting over losses incurred due to flooding that destroyed their farms. The affected areas are the hub of rice production, and 90% of rice farms located on both sides of River Benue in the area were destroyed by flood. Salis Lawan has the details of the story.
The flood was as a result of water released from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon Republic. These farmers, who until the flood expected bumper yields, are now struggling to harvest what remains. The flood, which according to the farmers came earlier than expected, worsened the situation.
Mun yi noma dai ambaliya ya zo ya ci. To saboda haka muna nan muna kokari muna fitar da amfanin gonannakin mu a cikin ruwa.
The flood has wreaked havoc to us. As local farmer in this farm, I planted 2 bags of rice seed and was expecting to harvest more than 50 bags of paddy rice, but more than 95% was destroyed by flood.
Some of the farmers explained the money they used for planting was borrowed from banks, while others went as far as selling their household properties with hope of replacing them after harvesting.
Wallahi ruwan nan ya shanye mana gona yanzu haka muna kokari bata gama nuna ba ma muke cirewa. Gashi dai kowa yana gani yanda muke fama.
My losses personally this year as the result of the flood is much. We are forced to harvest our crops unreaped. I took a loan of 400,000 naira from one of the rice processing companies to plant rice and hope to pay with paddy rice at the harvest. And now, aside from the damage, my major concern was how to repay my loan back.
To ga abun da ya kasance yanzu dai bamu san yanda zai kasance ba ga dai yanda rayuwa ya dawo.
Shinkafa bata nuna ba. Ruwa dai gashi da Allah kawo ruwa. Mai shinkafan wata ta kosa.
The rice is not yet matured for the harvest because 85% is already. However, in order to minimize our losses, we were left with no option than to cut what we can see from the flood. We are appealing to the federal and Adamawa state government to assist farmers affected by flood.
Kapaka yawanci duk an yi asara ta rube. Gaba ɗayanta ta rube.
They are pleading with the government and other individuals to come to their aid by making provisions for food and other necessary items to guarantee their safety. Salis Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
And now to security matters. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke is set to take stringent measures against warring towns of Ifon and Ilobu if they fail to end the ongoing communal clash immediately. Peace is, however, returning to the area as the 2 towns signed a peace agreement with the Osun State government to sheath their swords even as curfew declared by the governor still subsists. Hamido Yegbade reports.
The recent communal clash between Ifon and Ilobu towns in Osun State disrupted the socio-economic activities in both towns. Properties worth millions of naira were destroyed as houses were burned, while several people were killed and thousands of residents displaced. The state governor, Ademola Adeleke, during his community engagement, vowed to take stringent measures against those fueling the crisis.
Security is very important in development. As I've talked to you, that the side by you, side by
appealing to the people of Ifon and Ilobu to end the war immediately, the Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, passionately pleaded with the people of Ifon and Ilobu to embrace peace.
I'm appealing to you in the name of God from the throne of Oduduwa. We're all the same. One race. Please, let us stop all this killing. It's an appeal. The youth of this community do not allow anybody to instigate you to one another. We're all from this throne. We came from this throne. We are all the same. I use this throne to beg you, please, don't let it escalate further. Be your brother's keeper.
Meanwhile, during a meeting with government delegation, representatives of the two towns resolved to sign a peace pact agreement. Commissioner for Information and Public Enlightenment in the state, Kolakbo Alimi, said the 24-hour curfew declared by the governor still subsists in the town until further notice. Amid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Oshogbo.
A 42-year-old driver was allegedly shot dead by military personnel in Jalingo, the Taraba state capital. The incidents, which occurred around 7 o'clock in the morning, took place in Barade ward of Jalingo. The report.
Eyewitness account reveals that the deceased driver, who was driving a Hilux of a construction company, was chased by some army personnel asking him to stop. According to eyewitnesses, they saw the company's vehicle on speed, followed by that of the army, which incidentally rammed into the company's vehicle. According to them, the driver, who was a known person in the area, rushed out of the car, trying to run away, but the military officer shot him and he fell, while onlookers scampered for safety. The victim was said to have been picked up by the alleged killer soldier, but died later in the hospital. It happened 7 a.m. in the morning when the soldiers ran after him, shot him, and later locked his car before they took him away. I know the driver and we work in the same company. I was called on the phone by one of our boss, that's one of our company drivers. On getting there, I did not see anything. They took him away to where I don't even know. A colleague of the deceased driver speaks on the incident. We saw the soldiers trailing the driver, and when they rammed into his car from behind, we had gunshots, and that was all. The soldiers now locked his door and took him away before people started coming out. Police Public Relations Officer in the state, Abdullahi Usman, confirmed the incident via telephone conversation. He said the State Commissioner of Police has set up a team to investigate the matter, as at the time of filing this report, family of the deceased are yet to be told about the incident.
Still in Taraba, more security matters. Taraba State Police Command has said it has arrested no fewer than 4 suspects robbing students of Taraba State University. Spokesman of the Police Command, Superintendent Abdullahi Usman, said the 4 suspects were part of a syndicate terrorizing students on communities around the state-owned university. According to him, the operatives of Kofai Police Station attached to Sunkani Division, Ardokola local government area, succeeded in breaking the syndicate of some miscreants and arresting the 4 suspects who have been terrorizing and robbing students and community around Taraba State University, Jalingo. Suspected rivalry and political thuggery have reportedly led to the killing of 2 persons, Abbas and Ojiji Shagari, at Aingba in Dekina local government area of Kogi State. Daily Trust gathered that the incident happened on Saturday around 2 p.m. in Aingba. The locals reported that the town was turned upside down when hoodlums engaged themselves in a gun duel, causing people to scamper for safety in different directions. According to a resident of the area, the thug who died was killed by members of his gang over rivalry or sharing formula tussles. Another resident, James Odiba, said sounds of gunshots pervaded the town around 1:45 p.m. on Saturday around the Unity roundabout in Aingba. He said before the security men could come to the scene, 2 of the hoodlums were seen laying dead. The locals further said the security agents came to the scene of the incident around 2:30 p.m., trailed the thugs and arrested 5 of them while recovering pump-action guns and other lethal weapons. The Kogi State Police Command did not, however, comment on the incident. And now to political matters. Postponement of judgment in a suit involving leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, by the Supreme Court to December 15th has continued to generate reactions among Nigerians, especially of the Southeast extraction. Ohaneze Ndigbo Youth Council is has expressed dissatisfaction with the development and seek a better approach towards the release of the pro-Biafra secessionist leader. Trust TV's Ajibade Praise reports.
Continuous detention and trial of Nnamdi Kanu has sparked apprehension among some people in the southeast. It has also attributed to reasons behind violence in the region that has claimed several lives in addition to destruction of property. Comrade Igboayaka O. Igboayaka speaks on the continued detention of the IPOB leader.
So Nigeria, by the way they are taking up Nnamdi Kanu case, it will cause a problem in this country, because a government or a country that doesn't obey the rule of law, the judiciary, they are not independent. They are calling for anarchy. So on the issue, the way they are handling the Nnamdi Kanu case, the federal government of Nigeria is calling for another unavoidable political anarchy in Nigeria that will lead to social disobedience.
He also speaks on the just concluded Southeast Security and Economic Summit, which he says failed to meet the expectations of the people.
This summit is something that security is something that you can decide and discuss inside and provide a solution for it. But what they did is a political jamboree. So, and if you look at it, I think the most important thing is for them to come together and go and discuss and make sure, mount pressure on the Nigeria government to release Nnamdi Kanu, not all this political show here and there. It's very, very unfortunate. And the Ohaneze led by Chief Imadeli, it's very, very unfortunate that they don't know what they are doing, and they like this capacity and this political way to drive the interest of Ndibo in Nigeria political contest.
Nnamdi Kanu was arrested in June 2021 and has been in detention of the DSS for over 2 years. Supreme Court is now scheduled to deliver judgment on his matter December 15th. Ajibade Praise, Trust TV News, Owerri.
You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up after the break, we'll tell you the story of 525-year-old Kanu Dai Pete. Details of this story and more to come after the break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
It was never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not a virtue in itself.
Let me finish.
Because there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No. It's about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who are not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? All those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid attention, significant attention to gas.
To do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its higher horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for jam, they want to go to higher institutions.
But just a short while ago you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
Follow us on all of our social media platforms at Trust TV News for latest updates on event scope.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the News Hour on Trust TV. Now let's take a look at a recap of some of our major stories. We told you that Nigeria, African Union react as fighting between Palestinian and Israeli forces continues. Adamawa farmers cry out as floods destroy crops. And now moving on to other stories, a professor of history and lecturer with the Federal University of Lafia, Wilfred Uji, has said that unless the federal and state governments work in synergy, insecurity in Benue State cannot be tackled. while reacting to the renewed killings and kidnappings in Benue communities in recent weeks, the University Don said he believes the current squad of leaders at the state and federal levels can end insecurity if the right strategy is deployed. Jimmy Azande reports.
Across the length and breadth of Benue State, there's a sense of apprehension among residents following the new wave of attacks across communities in the state and Nigeria in general.
In north-central Nigeria, especially in Benue State, huge population of young people, out of school with no jobs, and of course, who could not find their feet in society, poor. And of course, there's this agitation in all directions by young people, to control and to take over spheres of influence in terms of the economy, especially market centers across Benue State. And so you witness this re-insurgence of the kind of killings you have in Benue society.
Oh God, security in Nigeria is worse as has ever been. 23 years of independence, kidnapping is rife, banditry is rife, armed robbery is rife, militancy is rife. Look at those parts of this country is safe. Go to the southeast, you have IPOP. Go to the northwest, you have bandits and kidnappers. Go to the northeast, you have Boko Haram, you have Ansaru, you have Akim. Come to the north central, you have headsmen.
Despite being worried, the residents also believe that governments at all levels have what it takes to end the conflict.
In other words, if the military can concentrate, if before the conflict entered the hinterland, the security agencies made sure they didn't come in. They won't come in. But they have come in. And they are not going. With all the military investments, they are still there. General Abacha once said, if this kind of situation persists for 24 hours, the government has a hand, government is aware of it. I believe General Abacha.
In the final analysis, we must know that the responsibility of security is in the hands of the federal state. Only the federal state controls the military, the police, the navy, the army, and etc., and even the intelligence gathering. A state governor can only be effective if there's a synergy between the state and the center, that is Aso Rock. And I think this is something that we need to work upon seriously under Father Aliyev.
While displaced persons thought it was over with a new government in place, there have been palpable fear and anxiety following renewed attacks by vicious militia groups in Benue State for weeks now. Jimmy Azande, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
Management of the Nigerian Railway Corporation has responded to ticket racketeering allegations in its rail operations, saying it has suspended 9 workers found culpable. This comes after some staff members of the NRC were alleged to be involved in fraudulent dealings collecting cash from passengers, which they do not remit to the government, as well as ticket racketeering. Speaking to journalists at the Obafemi Awolowo station in Ibadan, the managing director of the NRC, Fidet Ohiria, said 9 members of staff involved in the fraudulent practice had been suspended. The NRC boss stated that adequate steps had been taken to prevent such people without tickets from being allowed to pass into the departure hall and onto the platform to board the train. And now, away from that, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has filed a lawsuit against the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, and 9 other former governors in the 10th Senate over their collection of both salaries and pensions as senators. Joined in the suit as respondents are Senators and Minister Abdulaziz Yari, Aminu Tambuwal, Adamu Alero, Adams Oshiomhole, Ibrahim Gaidam, Seriake Dixon, Ibrahim Dankwambo, Aliyu Wamako, Gbenga Daniel, and Dave Umahi. In the suit filed last Friday at the Federal High Court in Abuja, Serap is seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel Akpabio, 9 other senators, and Umahi to stop collecting both salaries and pensions and to return any pensions collected to their respective state treasuries. Serap is also seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel Akpabio and 9 other senators and Umahi to disclose the details and amounts of the pensions so far received by them. In the suit, Serap is arguing that the 7th schedule to the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended requires the former governors to stop collecting both salaries and pensions and to return any pensions collected. Serap is also argued that it is a fundamental breach of their fiduciary duties for former governors to collect both salaries and pensions. Their late collection by former governors of double emoluments is detrimental to the public interest. According to Serap, collecting pensions as former governors and salaries while serving as public officers is a flagrant violation of the letter and spirit of the Nigerian Constitution and the public trust. 16,260 girls in junior and senior secondary schools in Bauchi State are to benefit from conditional cash transfers as motivation to attend classes till graduation. Trust TV's Adamu Imam reports that the intervention through World Bank assisted project in partnership with Federal Ministry of Education is aimed at improving secondary education and providing opportunities for adolescent girls between 10 to 20 years of age. Let's take a look at the report.
Bauchi State is among the 18 states across the Federation to access $1.2 billion under Agile, a World Bank assisted project. Speaking at a stakeholder and media executives meeting, the state coordinator of the project, Jamila Dahiru, says the aim of the intervention is to reduce the number of out-of-school children in the state. According to her, each of the girls in JSS 1 to 3 will be given the sum of 5,000 naira, while those in SS 1 to 3 will receive the sum of 10,000 naira every term, in order to encourage them return to school until graduation.
Because they are unable to have a token that will make them provide uniform, for instance, for themselves, shoes, for instance, for themselves, bag or whatever that will now limit them into going to school. And so this conditional cash transfer will be provided to those benefiting individuals through their parents. They will be identified from primary, those that have graduated primary, that will be going into JSS 1, so that we will motivate them to go to JS 1. During their journey from JS 1 to JS 3, each session they will be motivated if they have more than 70% attendance in school.
Nairo also explained that there will be a digital education program in order to empower them with skills which will be useful to them in the future.
And there is a need to have a senior secondary school so that it will fit in the students who are having difficulty attending senior secondary school education. So we look at also those factors, the population that will fit the school, the distance, and then we identify those schools. Currently, we have already identified 120 schools that will be provided under the Agile project for the first 18 months only. Now, first phase of this project, we're looking at 160 schools.
She said there are 3 other social components of projects which focus on safe and accessible learning spaces, fostering an enabling environment for girls, and system strengthening and project management. On the modalities for the empowerment initiative, the project coordinator said the state will benefit more based on implementation performance of the project, while doing things differently to avoid mistakes recorded in other benefiting states. Adami Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
Now, sequel to the removal of fuel subsidy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on May 29, public transporters who engage in interstate shuttles say they have been witnessing steady decline in patronage occasioned by the fuel price hike, which is adversely affecting their business. Trust TV's Ado Musa, who visited Bauchi Motor Park in Jos, reports.
The public transporters who shuttle between Plateau and other states through the Jos Motor Park say they have grounded their vehicles for days, running into weeks, due to low patronage by passengers. The drivers, who say before the subsidy removal used to load significant number of vehicles daily, now hardly load one vehicle a day. Alhaji Abdullahi Garba is the State Financial Secretary of the National Union of Road Transport Workers. He speaks on how the federal government policy is taking its toll on the transportation business.
Since the inception of this removal of fuel subsidy, the transportation have come down. So we, the transporters, we suffer a lot due to this increment in the premium motor spirit price. The price is terribly high. You know, when you add a price on a petroleum product, it becomes a big problem to Nigerians, because most of the Nigerians normally use roads for their transport of goods and passengers.
Drivers and passengers say the situation is worrisome and requires urgent attention to keep the transport business going.
Well, the fuel increase affects our work. In fact, we are feeling badly. We are feeling totally badly. You know, sometimes when passengers, before we have passengers, it may be 2 days, 3 days, people are complaining. The passengers, even they are complaining of the increasing of the fuel, which they didn't have money. In fact, everybody is so annoyed. 4 days, 3 days for us to get passenger going anywhere.
This fuel subsidy removal has seriously affected my life. It has taken us backwards. Passengers are no longer coming like before. They always complain that the transport fare is expensive. Added to that, the maintenance of the vehicle is now a big challenge to us because of the hike in price of the spare parts. Just as the fuel subsidy removal continues to trigger economic hardship in the country, stakeholders in the transport sector are also worried the situation could push them out of job. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Sere, a popular meat delicacy in Hausa land, is an old way of preparing beef garnished with dried powdered groundnut cake, also known as kulikuli. Spots where these type of beef delicacy, which can be easily found in northern parts of Nigeria, is prepared are increasing, becoming a source of employment to teeming youth, earning a living through the long-aged business. Trust TV's Bello Musa tells the story of Abubakar Umar, who is now an accomplished suya maker in Kaduna State. Let's take a look at the report.
This beef delicacy found its origin from the Hausa community in the northern part of the country. Suya, which has now grown and traveled far beyond the region and Nigeria, can be found in some major cities around the world, is now one of the preferred meat delicacy in the country, especially amongst socialites. Abubakar Umar started the business with a small capital. Now he is an employer of labor.
I
learned it from my father and was helping him then. When he became old, he stepped aside. I continued with the business. I defied all challenges to reach this level. Take a look at how this suya maker used beef to prepare one of the most sought after suya. I bought a complete cow, slaughtered it, removed all the fat and bones from the meat. Then we used the meat to prepare the suya, known as ire in Hausa. Though Abubakar dropped out of school, he was lucky to have found solace in the suya business. My challenge is managing my employees because I have about 30 people working for me. I consider this as a great success. I am proud of my business because people know I can't beg them to survive. Suya is still enjoying patronage of the people, but the makers say the realities in the country is taking toll on the business. Banditry activities and subsidy removal makes cow costly in the market. In the past, we paid 15,000 naira to transport a cow from Maiduguri or Yobe, but now it's more than 50,000 naira. And from here to Mariri, we paid 5,000 naira, but now it's about 15,000 naira. He advised the youths to venture into self-reliant business in order to better their life, as white-collar jobs are not easy to come by. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
As the world marks Cerebral Palsy Day, which is celebrated every year on October 6, some caregivers in Lagos State use the day to observe cleanliness through environmental sanitation. Trust TV's Aisha Momo reports.
As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to celebrate the World Cerebral Palsy Day, the Iyaniwura Children Care Foundation (ICCF) says it is celebrating the day by observing cleanliness through environmental sanitation. The project coordinator of ICCF, Olajumoke Matilda Otitoloju, an advocate on rights of persons with disabilities, speaks on the imperatives of supporting and the need to end stigmatization, discrimination, and marginalization of people with cerebral palsy.
That day is set aside to show the world millions of reasons why we should support cerebral palsy awareness. Cerebral palsy is a neurological disability that affects different parts of the brain. In creating more awareness on climate change. And what we are doing in this local government, we are collaborating with the youths in this local government to show inclusion of persons with disability and how we can work together to control climate change. Hence, we are cleaning our environment.
Adebolu Adejobi, a member of ICCF, says although those suffering from the ailment are physically not fit, they can work together to achieve what they are set to do.
In commemoration of the yesterday, the World Cerebral Palsy Day, me and my friends, my family, we all come out together to say, yes, we can. And there's a millions of reasons why we can do it. We're not need to be set aside in the house or at school that we can walk. No, we are physically fit and we can do it. All we need is a little encouragement and push for us to do it. Because we know together we can achieve great.
Deborah Ojuade is also a member of group. She said cerebral palsy does not limit the strength of the victims.
So I'm a person with cerebral palsy. So we are here doing a sanitation cleaning in the environment of Obalende. So this is to inform people that they can do it. Just because we have disability doesn't mean that it's not a limitation to our strength. We can actually do it and we have proved it. And I'm sure that the government can take notice of.
She called on government to give those living with cerebral palsy an inclusive and associable environment in terms of employment, education, and other benefits enjoyed by the citizens.
It's indeed beautiful to see persons with disability contributing their own quota to community development. As part of activities marking the third-year anniversary of the Emir of Zazzau, Malam Ahmed Nuhu Bamali, on the throne, the monarch has turbaned 3 district heads to assist in running the affairs of the emirate. They include his younger brother and an assistant director at the Central Bank of Nigeria, Alhaji Muazu Ahmed Nuhu Bamali, turbaned as Baradin Zazzau. Bamali, a financial expert with many years of banking experience, is a descendant of the Malawa dynasty and was turbaned alongside 2 other district heads at the Emir's Palace in Zaria. He succeeded the former Baradin Zazzau, Alhaji Adamu Umar Idris, who hailed from the Katsinawa dynasty and was elevated to the traditional title of Sa'in Zazzau. Adamu Idris is also currently a director at the Nigecomsat, a satellite firm in Abuja. Similarly, the Emir of Zazzau has also elevated the former Sa'in Zazzau, Alhaji Idris Ibrahim Idris, to the position of Dan Madamin Zazzau, and hailed from the Katsinawa dynasty. He replaced his elder brother Alhaji Kabir Ibrahim Idris, who died recently. While congratulating them on their new appointments, the Emir of Zazzau, Malam Ahmed Nuhu Bamali, tasked them to use their wealth of experience to bring about rapid socio-economic development to the emirate. He enjoined them to be good ambassadors of the emirate and imbibe the spirit of unity, tolerance and patience to enable them discharge their responsibilities diligently. Speaking shortly after the occasion, the State Minister of Education, Alhaji, conveyed the federal government's goodwill and appreciation for marking 3 years anniversary on the throne of the Malam Ahmed Nuhu Bamali as the 19th Fulani Emir of Zazzau. Hundreds of personalities from all walks of life, both within and outside the country, attended the traditional turbaning and 3-year anniversary of the Emir on the throne. The popular and historic 525-year-old Kano Dye Pit, situated in the ancient Kofar Mata area, is currently in a state of disrepair as the center faces a diminishing form. The dyeing pits, which were once fascinating and ever busy, are now dilapidated, with few people working as dyers in the few pits that remain functional. Salim Umar Ibrahim reports.
The Kofar Mata Dye Pit Center was established in the year 1498 by Muhammad Dabosa, who came to settle in Kano from Rimai in present-day Katsina State. Besides being a farmer, Dabosa began dyeing clothes as a family craft, and since then, the family has run the dyeing business. The historic Kofar Mata Dye Pit is one of the historical monuments in Kano State. The center once served as a first port of call to national and international guests and tourists who visited Kano State on either official or personal engagements. The center serves tourism purposes and is visible to passers-by. Kofar Mata is strategically located by the roadside, with petty traders displaying their goods along the old perimeter fencing.
The business is not going well up to date. So normally the people that try to provide the money first, then you can buy the items. Now the item is very expensive, especially the fabrics. When you go to buy the fabric in the markets, 2 years back, when you buy the fabric in the market, 1 year maybe you buy as a 400 naira. So now it's going to 700 to 800 naira.
In the pits area, there are about 144 pits on display, but not more than 5 are now functioning to keep business going and the center running. Majority of the pits are now filled with ill-looking rubbish. It is an ugly sight, best described as plastic waste and water pollution that could trigger unwanted diseases.
Most of the pits, you can see the rubbish inside. So the rubbish is not problem because there's preservation the pit. If you can leave the pit without anything inside, it's cracked because of hot of the sun. It's cracking the pit. So when you put the sun like a little rubbish in, when the sun is coming, there's no cracking the pit. That is why what you can see, most of the pit there's in rubbish inside. If you can get order from the people, we can open all the pits to go be action.
Many people have left the business they inherited from their parents and have sought for other avenues to earn a living. The business is therefore only kept alive by the passion of the operators of the pit.
For now, the place is no more lucrative, but you know, it's just a matter of time. With gold, all things are possible. What we are passing through right now is just a taste of time. I believe everything will come back to normal.
Records exist to show that fabrics made by the Kofar Mata dyers were adjudged the best fabrics in the past. In fact, ancestors of the operators boasted that the finished fabric from Kofar Mata was always in high demand, especially during festive periods.
The business has drastically gone down, and we hope that the new administration will give us a pat on the back for the business to thrive.
A key reason for the dwindling dyeing business is because it has continued to suffer neglect from successive governments.
As you are aware, government alone cannot provide the required development in whatever sector. We are therefore passionate about making partnerships and collaborations with NGOs, local and international organizations donor organizations, among many other relevant stakeholders. We will collaborate with them, we will engage them, and see how best we can develop this important facility, that is the Copper Mata Dapit, and many other historic sites and monuments across the state, inshallah.
The intrusion of the Chinese into the dye business may be the last straw, as thousands of youths involved in the dyeing business across the state have been rendered jobless because the Chinese have been allowed to import into Nigeria low and cheap quality finished fabrics that are usually made from plastic fabrics instead of cotton. Salim Umar Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Kano.
And on the foreign scene, the death toll from powerful earthquakes in western Afghanistan is estimated to be 2,000 people, a senior Taliban leader has said, adding that the toll might further go up in one of the deadliest quakes to hit the country in 2 decades. Sohail Shaheen, the Taliban spokesperson based in Qatar, said that many people are missing and rescue operations are underway to recover people trapped in debris in the wake of magnitude 6.3 earthquake in Herat province. The multiple quakes on Saturday hit 40 kilometers, that's about 24 miles northwest of the city of Herat at about 11 a.m. on Saturday, with one measuring magnitude 6.3, the U.S. Geological Survey said strong aftershocks were felt in the neighboring Baghdad and Farah provinces. Still on the foreign scene, the West African Elders Forum election mission to Liberia has urged politicians and other stakeholders in the country to eschew violence and commit to peaceful election ahead of the country's general election on Tuesday, October 10, 2023. Head of the election mission to Liberia and former President of Nigeria, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and Kadri Desire Quadrago, former Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, and deputy head of the mission, in a statement on Sunday after the close of campaigns in Monrovia, urged all candidates to abide by the peace accord. The forum urged the National Election Commission and the security agencies to exercise their mandate in accordance with the nation's laws to build trust and guarantee the integrity of the elections. And lastly, in sports news, Gabriel Martinelli scored a dramatic late winner as Arsenal earned a statement victory over defending Premier League champions Manchester City at Emirates Stadium. A likely disappointing game was given a stunning finale 4 minutes from the just as both sides looked certain to have settled for a point. Making his return from a hamstring injury as a substitute, Martinelli's strike deflected in off Nathan Ake to earn Arsenal a first league win over City since December 2015. It was a moment that sparked wild celebrations and put the Gunners level on points with North London rivals Tottenham at the top of the table. The biggest talking point until the goal was how Manchester City's Mateo Kovacic somehow stayed on the pitch after successive late tackles on Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice. City had the better early opportunities when Rice cleared off the line from Josko Gavio before Ake scooped a shot over the bar from close range. Arsenal keeper David Raya, who had an uncertain time, was twice almost caught in possession on his line by Julian Alvarez. But it was the home side who were elated as Martinelli, introduced off the bench for the second half, made that vital contribution. Still in sports news, the League One match between Montpellier and Clermont was abandoned on Sunday when visiting goalkeeper Maurice Diaw was stunned by a firework that exploded next to him after being thrown from the stands. With the game in injury time and host Montpellier leading a 4-2, a pyrotechnic landed near Diaw and went off as he was preparing to take a goal kick. After receiving treatment on the field, the 30-year-old was carried off on a stretcher with the game called off following a crisis meeting of officials. Montpellier were heading for a first home win of the season at the time of the incident, despite having played with 10 men from the 54th minute following Maxime Esteve's dismissal for 2 bookable offences. They had twice seen a lead wiped out as Johan Magnin leveled for Clermont after Musa Al-Tamari's opener before Sheikh Umar Konate drew the visitors level again following a Teji Savania penalty. A second Savania Sport kick put the home side ahead prior to Esteve's red, with Tamari netting his second to extend their lead. Clermont, who sit bottom of League One, also had a man sent off as Diel received treatment on the field. With that, we've come to the end of the news hour on Trust TV. Do not forget to follow us across all of our social media platforms for more news updates, programs, and documentary. I'm Aisha Salihu. Thanks for your time.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.